Hello, everybody. Thank you very much indeed for joining us this evening. We'll just give another 10 or 15 seconds for everybody to finish their connections and join us. So just bear with us a moment, please. Fantastic. Well, good evening and welcome, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us live here on YouTube this evening to talk about a very important conversation in conservation at the moment, the role of women, women as rangers, women in conservation, women as conservationists. So for those joining us for one of these events for the first time, my name is Joyce. I've been CEO at Save the Rhino for very nearly a year now. One of my favourite parts of the job is being able to share stories from our field partners during these events. And tonight we're talking about one of my favourite places in the world, North Luangwa Conservation Project in Zambia, where I was very lucky to work as an ecologist advising on black rhino habitat capacity earlier on in my career during their rhino reintroductions. North Luangwa Conservation Programme was established in 1986. It's a joint effort between Frankfurt Zoological Society and the Department of National Parks and Wildlife in Zambia to safeguard a unique wilderness area that's a flagship site for FZS within the 22,000 kilometre North Luangwa ecosystem. It's home to Zambia's only black rhino population, which continues to show one of the highest growth rates in Africa. It's also a stronghold for predators and home to Zambia's largest, most stable and only increasing elephant population. 25 black rhino were reintroduced to North Luangwa from South Africa between over 7 years between the period 2003 to 2010, and thanks to very focused security but also biological management efforts, their numbers have grown. They're now a key 2 population. We can't release their exact numbers for security reasons, but it's been a huge success for black rhino conservation. However, what began as a species recovery initiative has become a catalyst for so much more, igniting jobs, providing training, bringing in financing, developing infrastructure. It's a really inspirational approach. The project mission is linking livelihoods and landscapes, and the team really expand their thinking way beyond kind of the traditional protected area mindset, focusing just on wildlife numbers and securing beautiful wild landscapes. At the heart of NLCP is the need for people to benefit from and maximize the opportunities of the broader ecosystem in a way that remains beneficial, in a way that's sustainable and remains beneficial for everybody in the long term. And as we'll see this evening, achieving this really requires us also to think beyond the traditional skill set that we associate with rhinos and rangers and perhaps wildlife conservation more broadly, from a law enforcement patrol into a much broader societal way of thinking and working. And for me, North Luangwa Conservation Programme has been incredibly innovative in the way that they think about people in conservation, and it's very exciting to be able to talk some more about this with you this evening. So we have 3 speakers zooming in with us live from across Zambia. We're very grateful for your time today. Firstly, Penelope Konkola is the Gender Diversity and Inclusion Officer at North Luangwa Conservation Programme. She's zooming in live from her house in Chamba. She's joining us on her leave, so thank you, Penny, for giving up your evening for us. Penny's been with the project for almost 3 years now. She's working as the gender lead for over a year, and in her role, she helps the men and women in uniform better understand different gender-related issues that exist and how people can rise above them. She works in the Landscape Integration Unit, who work directly with the communities living in the game management areas around the park to ensure they're gender responsive in the way that they engage with the communities adjacent to the wildlife area. Second up will be Joyce Chiluba. Joyce is a wildlife police officer, and she's the manager of the Canine Unit. She's zooming in live with us from the headquarters of North Luangwa this evening. Thank you, Joyce. Joyce Brilliant Chiluba was born in Mukunguli chiefdom. She began her career in conservation at the age of 22. After completing basic field ranger training, she was enlisted in the Specialist Rhino Elephant Protection Unit, where she was one of only 2 female members. She was later inducted into the K9 unit as a handler, where she completed multiple trainings, progressing from a certified handler to a master handler, then a senior master handler, ultimately attaining the role of trainer. She holds the distinction of being the first certified female trainer in Zambia, and she now leads the K9 unit. Claire Lewis is joining us from FZS headquarters in Lusaka. Claire is project manager of the North Luangwa Conservation Programme. She lives in Zambia with her husband Ed Sayer and their 3 children. Claire's worked for FZS in North Luangwa since 2007, partway through the Black Rhino reintroductions, and has really helped expand the project in scale geographically, thematically, and financially since. So we're really honoured and delighted to have all of you joining us this evening. We also have a few short clips to share from women working in the park, Joanna Kasabula and Salome Kunda, who work as rhino monitoring rangers. So let's kick off. Penny, maybe we can start with a few questions to you. So to our audience at home, we'll work through a series of one-on-one chats with each of these different women. We've gathered a few questions from you in advance, so we'll come back to those. If any questions come to your mind while we're speaking, please drop them in the chat there in YouTube, and at the end we'll loop back and put your questions to the team. So Penny, welcome. Really exciting to have you with us. Maybe we could start with you telling us a little bit about yourself and your background and how you came to be working in your role at North Luangwa Conservation Programme.
Thank you so much, Joe. Happy to be part of this today. So as Elia mentioned, my name is Penelope Konkola Lombe. I have been with FZS for close to 3 years now, working as the gender lead so far. I'm currently working as a project coordinator for our Light Foundation project and the coordinator for our gender mainstreaming work. It's been quite an incredible journey. I started off as a data analyst during the integrated land and resource governance work, which dealt with land administration and certification in 2 of our chiefdoms that we're working in. It was quite an interesting journey, moving from just being behind the computer, ensuring that the data that was coming in was accurate, to then engaging with the communities. One major thing that sprang up as we were doing the land documentation was men simply outrightly refusing to include their spouses on the land certificates that they were getting. So then it called to our attention the need to begin addressing these issues with the communities themselves. So we started engaging with the communities, with the traditional leaders, in trying to understand what were their reasons for not allocating land parcels to women, especially women that were married into the families. They would give their female children, there was no harm in that, but then they wouldn't include their wives that they were marrying. So it really brought us to this place where we realized this is something that we needed to look into. So then that got me into working as the Gender Diversity and Inclusion Officer. Quite an interesting, something that started off as simply looking into the land documentation, then sprang into, as an organization, looking into how we are being gender responsive in our programming, in our own team members. Are we being gender responsive, as opposed to just saying, oh, women inclusion, are our men and our women ready and understanding these issues as they arise? So that is where now the gender department was created. So we started looking into having our own gender mainstreaming strategy, which we finalized early this year, thank goodness. And then we also now developed a gender action plan in what activities we needed to get done with the different initiatives that we have going on in the communities, in the protected area with our law enforcement officers. So we have been having dialogues or discussions around gender issues with our men and women in uniform, as well as the communities around. So that includes traditional authorities, the communities themselves, even our own personnel, in ensuring that everybody is moving at the same pace. We are all speaking one voice.
Fantastic, thanks, Penny. So you went from being a bit of a nerd doing data behind the computer to being this spokeswoman firelight for making everything happen. That's a real journey for you.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
I think you've managed quite a lot of different partnerships and projects, and particularly an exciting project for us with our partners, Conservation Nation, in terms of the gender work that you're doing.
Yes, so Conservation Nation has been supporting the discussions that we have been having with our law enforcement. And then, so what we decided to do as well is to begin now bringing in different aspects that sort of instigate the gender biases that are created, things to do with menstrual hygiene, for example, or gender-based violence, which are typically just viewed as a man hitting a woman or a woman hitting a man, but there is so much that goes on that is all gender-based violence. So it's now us using the support from Conservation Nation to begin looking into these things. So what we decided to do this year is to raise champions from within the communities. So we advertise, we always try to be transparent in how we get community members, but we were so clear on given the nature of the discussions that we wanted to impart into these champions, we're so clear on getting more young girls involved. Normally, it's when you give out a call, it's mostly men who apply. So we're looking at these vibrant young girls who are able to just speak for themselves and able to understand and articulate issues. So these are the ones that we'll be raising. We're calling them menstrual health mentors, but we want to equip them with so much more than just menstrual hygiene management knowledge. Want to have them having leadership skills, them being more self-confident, self-aware, so that they have all these opportunities. It's so sad with our communities that for most girls, the goal is to get married, because for them, marriage is security. It doesn't matter if they're the third, fourth, or fifth wife, as long as they are married and are attached to a Mr. somebody, then they are Mrs. somebody. And our communities hold marriage in such high regard that if a girl reaches, in one of our chiefdoms, if a girl reaches a certain age and she's not pregnant yet, the parents question whether something is wrong with their daughter. So we want to now have these girls that will be able to advise their friends and be safe spaces for their fellow girls.
That's amazing. It's a huge and complex topic, isn't it? With so many different layers, so many different issues to address, and lots of sensitivities, of course, I'm sure. Maybe you could share with us, Penny, a little bit about kind of what does your typical day look like? Well, actually, you probably don't have a typical day, do you? You're probably doing different things all the time, but what kind of tasks are there that keep you busy in your job?
Okay, thank you, Joe. So some of the things that I get to do range from something as simple as just doing a report for some activity that I did, to having these dialogues with our men and women in uniform, as well as just being aware of what is happening. So we've made our lines so open to the communities that if something happens, for example, we had reports coming in of 14-year-old girls being impregnated by men as old as 30 or 50 years old. So then, because these communities do not really have anywhere to report these issues, they report them to us. So then it's us trying to guide them in what offices they can go to, in who they can talk to. So that's more or less a typical day for me, in just ensuring that all that we're doing is leaving no one behind and just working with the communities.
Fantastic. And I wonder, what is it that you enjoy most about your job? Penny, what inspires you to get up and keep doing this every day?
It's just knowing that I will meet a new person every day and learn something new. I always draw experiences from the stories that I hear from people. It's those experiences that then feed into how I interact with other people. I always love giving realistic examples of something that happened to someone or something that happened to me. And then just seeing how people get to realize how they interact with each other, how that then influences how they interact at work. One of the things that we had initially been trying to do with our law enforcement was trying to get them, our men, trying to get them to be more accommodating of their female colleagues. So then what they were getting, we were telling them was, oh, give the women a chance, give them these really, really tough chores to do or tough tasks. And then when they fail, you can come back and tell us, oh, they failed. We told you they're not strong enough. So then we realized we were approaching it the wrong way. We should have been looking at their home situations. How are they treating their wives? How are they treating their kids? And then draw those lessons into how then they treat their colleagues at work, how they treat each other, even as men. And hearing them, I always tell them, do you know how many men die of high blood pressure in our country? And they're always astonished when they realize the number of the men is always higher than the women. Like, but why is it that there's a notion that when a man dies and say he amassed some wealth of some sort and then he dies, and they'll say, oh, the wife killed him so that she'll remain with the properties. I'm like, no, you want to carry all the burden. You don't want to share it with your wife. And then when the eventuality eventually happens, you're like, oh, the wife did it. But no, she didn't do it. It was you did it to yourself. So it's always people realizing, oh, that's how that is. And that always just brightens up my day, because I know we're learning together. As much as I am learning, as much as the organization is learning, even the people that we engage and interact with are equally learning with us and growing with us.
Yeah, thank you. It's amazing, and it's so interesting that these steps that we're starting to take for conservation and supporting individual people and rangers, it goes beyond individuals into the teams, into the family, into the bigger society. It's a huge conversational change and societal change that you're driving here, Penny. You're really an inspirational woman, and we really appreciate you taking the time this evening to share some of your stories with us. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jo.
So quite a few people who shared their questions with us ahead of this event were really interested to learn more about the particular challenges that female rangers or women working directly in conservation experience in their roles, and how they overcome these. So next up, we're going to hear from Salome Kunda. She's a rhino monitoring officer at North Luangwa, and she's going to share her thoughts with her on the challenges that she's faced.
The challenges, there are a lot, and I cannot even manage to mention them, but I'll tell you that some of them are like, it is not easy for a woman to work in a park, like walking in the bush. It is not easy from where we are coming from. A very long time ago, they were saying if a female found working this job, they will say it is a taboo. But now we have proved them wrong, because we have managed to be one of those men who used to work. And it was not easy. Only if you have got good heart and strong heart for you to achieve it. Some of the challenges, you find that the family, it is not everyone who accept that you should work from here. It's not everyone. Some, they will be against, and they will give you reason why they are saying that you can't go there. More especially as a female, you know, we do our body, it's not very strong as man, but we do manage. So some, maybe like to my parents, my father, he was very supportive, but my mother, she was against because she carried me for 9 months and she don't want anything bad to happen to me. So she tried by all means to protect, to say, no, you can't do this. But I do thank God for my father, because he supported me to say, if I did this and I'm still alive, even her, she can do it. So because of the encouragement which my father gave me, helped me. Again, I also thank my husband, because it is not easy for me just to wake up and say, no, let me go and work from there. And if my husband is not in support, I can't do it. But always, my husband will always be with me and encourage me to say, you can do it, you can do it. From that, we are able to keep our family safe.
So next up, we are honoured to connect directly with Joyce, joining us from the head office in the park. Good evening, Joyce. Joyce, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening, thank you.
We really appreciate you giving up some of your precious evening and your precious time to talk to us. Could you please maybe kick off by telling us a little bit about the work that you do, the work with the canine unit, and the role of the role of the dogs in conservation?
Okay, you're welcome everyone. The work which is Canine is doing in NRCP is a great work, and one of the works which we make sure that we conduct is to do canine operations. What I mean in canine operations is that we go out looking for work, and we do a lot of work. In those operations which we conduct, we have a lot of, we conduct different types of operations, which is village sweep operations, road block operations, open areas operations. So in those operations, that's where now we get our dogs, we use our dogs, because we have detection dogs and we also have tracking dogs. So when we are caught out, maybe in the village, in the community, or on the road, when we have information, we take our dogs, we go out with our dogs. Then when we go out with our dogs are able to detect on different types of traits, especially wildlife products. So our dogs are trained on 32 targets, meaning they are able to detect on those wildlife products which are not allowed to be carried by people who doesn't have licenses or anything which can allow them to go or travel with those products. So we have like ivory, then rhino horns. Those products are not allowed for someone to go with or to travel with anywhere or to keep them in their homes. As long as they don't have papers to say they are allowed to keep those things, our dogs, we take them, even if they have hidden it in the house. When we go, we have the information, we have been called out to say we have this information to say someone is keeping something in their houses. We go there, we take our dogs. Then when we go there, we don't use ourselves to say we can to search their houses. We'll just use the dogs, because dogs are faster than human. Because for us human, it can take you maybe 10 minutes to search a 3-bedroom house, but for a dog, it will just take maybe 2 minutes or 3 minutes. You are done with the house. Then the dog will be able to show you. We trust our dogs. They detect indication when they find something which they have been trained on. It's very solid. Even all handlers they have been trained to say when they know how the dogs perform, they know and understand the behavior of a dog. When it is on the target, they know to say this dog I'm working with is on the target. So the dog will show the handler to say there's something here. Then the backup handler will come and help. Then after that, the arrest will be made. Then we'll carry on with our work. So that's the most important thing that we are doing in NLCP, even in game management areas.
That's amazing. So you're using the dogs to help you detect products in people's houses, even in their vehicles, to make arrests. And I think you also have tracking dogs, so you can use the dogs in the park if you pick up the scent of people who shouldn't be in the park. Is that correct? You're tracking with the dogs in the park too.
Yes, for tracking dogs, how we work with tracking dogs, we have the security team, which goes out for patrols on the ground. When they find, to say there is a sign of poachers, no, maybe they were somehow, those officers on the ground, they have seen poachers, then they have not managed to apprehend them. They run away. Then they make a call to us as canine team. We'll go there with our dogs. Then after just reaching there, then the team on the ground will tell us to say, this is where we saw those suspects. Then they learn in that side. Because when someone has been learning, then they have been carrying something, or maybe they were sitting, maybe having a lunch or doing something, they will leave something there. Even the food, they will just show you to say, these people, they were sitting this side, then they learn that side. Then we will take our dog, our tracking dog. Our handlers are also trained on tracking. So that dog will be taken there. Then the handler knows how to do the tracking. We'll go there, then we'll make the dog to sniff on the footstep or the footprint which they have seen there as those officers who were on the ground. Then we'll make the dog to say track. The dogs understand the language. Even the handler, we do understand the language. Just by feeling the leash itself in your hands, you will say to say, my dog is on track. Then we'll continue with the tracking. After tracking, sometimes we'll make an arrest. Sometimes we don't make an arrest. But most of the times when we are called out for tracking, we do make a lot of success when we are following up with the tracking dog, because we know to say, when we track, we'll be able to, even if we don't make an arrest, but we are near in the communities where those people are going, we do transfer that information to investigation and intelligence unit, then they follow up. As a result, it will end up maybe the investigation unit and the intelligence unit, they will make an arrest. During village sweeps, any operation, they will do make that. So that's the work which canine team is doing in NLCP and the game management areas which is surrounding it.
Thank you, Joyce. It's really a very powerful tool, that close relationship you have with the dogs. And you, of course, began as a field ranger. You came in through basic field ranger training and developed your dog handling skills. And you've now the manager of the canine unit. Congratulations. Maybe thinking about the comments that Salome made and these questions about the particular challenges that women face in a ranger role, can you share any of your experiences with us and how you've overcome those?
Yeah, in the beginning, we had some challenges, as Salome has said already. It wasn't easy for the first time for us to work as the female scouts, but thankfully, in Penny's group, we have people who are sensitizing people in communities, even chiefdoms. So congratulations to Penny. You have done a lot of job to our unit, especially in law enforcement. That time it was difficult, but after those sensitization, people, their mindset are changing about us as the female scouts, how we are working. Because in the beginning, there was a point where you find that those male scouts who you are working with, we are working with them. We don't have a problem working with the male scouts. As a female scout, we don't have a problem. But where the challenge was is for those male scouts and the wives. The wives were somehow, they told us to say, there was an accusation to say, maybe these women, which are they are working with our husbands in the park. There is that adultery accusation, which was not even true. So what Penny has done with the team, even us, we didn't, because that time Penny was not there. So the top management of NLCP came to us to say, you know what, to avoid this accusation, we need to do what? We need to talk to the community. We also need to do what? Also need to talk to the spouses of this male scouts which we are working with. So we came up with a strategy to say, just to clear the minds of people, what we are going to do is to start getting those females to come in the park so that they understand the way you are working, they understand the importance of conservation. So we started up as me and one of my friends is not in canine unit, but we were together. We came up with a strategy to say we are going to get those female, the wives for male scouts to come in the park. Then we started with one group. The group was about 20 wives. They came in the park. So after they came in the park, we were together. We took them where their husbands were working from, to tell them to say, when your husband leave your house and they come to work, it doesn't mean that they have followed me here with those accusations. No. So we tell them the way their men are working, even us, the way we are working, because we needed to tell them so that they all understand and clear those minds to say, no, we are not here for adultery, which we are thinking that we are here for. We are here for work. Then from that time, the wives understood, and it helped us a lot because that information, we didn't just stop with the one group. We continued the all sector groups. The wives were coming in the park. Not even one day, they will be coming. Maybe they were coming today. Then the whole day, maybe tomorrow they will stay in the park. Then the other day, that's when we will take them out. So from that time, they were able to understand. Luckily, they were able to go out and tell their friends to say, what we were thinking is not what is happening in the park. Sometimes we are even accusing them to say they are doing this. Sometimes they just use one vehicle when going in, but where they are working from, they do separate. Sometimes if they are working at the same place, they don't even sleep near to each other. They have different areas where they are sleeping from and they are working from. So that was challenging. Currently, we don't have that challenge. We worked on it. Thankfully, Penny is doing a great job in the community, especially with the chiefs.
That's so interesting, Joyce. I mean, I don't know about our audience joining from home, but I had assumed that the challenge maybe would come from the men themselves and their ego or something about that dynamic. So it's very interesting that once you actually trial this, it's their wives at home, it's other women who actually were the challenge, and it shows how important it is to take this big picture approach and have Penny and the team driving the broader thinking and the broader gender awareness around it. It's really very interesting and important work. So Joyce, maybe just thinking about the K9 unit and your colleagues, the team that you manage, do you think there are any differences in the way that men and women work as rangers, or the way that men and women work as dogs, the ways of working that they bring to the team? Are there differences between men and women?
No, answering this, no, it's because of the experience, what I've gone through. There is no difference in the way we have been given an opportunity to work in the unit, or especially when you join in REP, we have the unit which we call it LEPU, which stands for Rhino and Elephant Protection Unit. When you join that team, there is nothing like you are a man, you are a woman. There is nothing like that. Me, I'm given a chance to be the trainer and the chance to be the manager of the team. I'm a human. We also have some men who are doing the same thing which I'm doing. So for me, I don't think there is any difference, or there's no, men can do this, or women are doing canine work better than men. No, we are just doing the same. For us as general CP for canine, we have 60% of women in the team, especially in canine team. We have 60% of the team is for women. I don't seen that difference when I send a female officer to go and work maybe in the village sweep. They are very effective. Even when I send a male officer to go and work in the village sweep, they are very effective. They are giving me the good result, and there is no difference. I can't see that difference. So I don't see any difference in that.
But yeah, fantastic. So your conservation professionals are trained to the same level, the same standards. Actually, it doesn't really make a difference whether it's a man or a woman. They're both equally good at doing the job. It's really interesting to hear your experiences in the field and how they might differ from our expectations, from our prejudices at home. Again, if this surprises you or you have questions about this, join us and drop those into the chat. Joyce, we really appreciate your time. It's been fantastic to hear more about your amazing career. Thank you for the fantastic and very important work you're doing there. Much appreciated from all of us. So next, thank you. Next, we have another quick clip from a scout from the principal scout, Joanna Casabula, the Rhino Monitoring Unit, talking about her experiences working as a female ranger.
We walked each and every day 15 kilometers, 16, 21, according to the distance where you are and where you came from. Since there was no ladies who was working under line monitoring unit, people were discouraging me. No, don't go. There is a lot of animals, there is a lot of lions, even lion itself, it is a dangerous animal. So being a lady, you are going to die there. I just ask from those who are already in lion monitoring unit, how are you managing? I love this job because there is a lot of opportunity under this job. I know how to drive the vehicle just working under this unit. I know the behaviors of the animals, the types of trees which the rhinos are used to browse. So even the medicine in the forest, some trees are medicines, are also the fruits, not just to know oranges, apples. We also have the fruits that is in the forest. So I love this job. I enjoy it.
Yeah, just really powerful actually for me to hear there how the kind of traditional knowledge and skills that Joanna has around trees and medicinal uses of plants can build into her professional role, but also thinking about how revolutionary, frankly, developing skills like driving would be for a young woman coming from someone like that area. It's really exciting and quite groundbreaking work, I think. So before we move to your questions from the floor, we'll speak to Claire Lewis, who is a director at Frankfurt Zoological Society and a program manager for North Luangwa Conservation Programme. Claire, thank you very much for joining us from Lusaka this evening.
Hi, Joe. How are you doing? Hello, everybody.
Claire, great to have you with us. Thanks for joining us this evening. And I feel like I keep using this word, but genuinely, NLC NRCP has been hugely innovative and really forward thinking in their approaches to many things, but particularly gender and conservation. I wonder, what were the catalysts for this? What made you start?
It's hard to say, but it's one of those things that kind of creeps up on you. I started working for North Luangwa Conservation Programme in 2007, and we were a very small organisation then. There were very few women. I was perhaps the only woman. I used to talk about it often that the weekends, if my husband was away, I was the only woman for, nearly 5,000 square kilometres. And that did change, and we got some women into sort of mid-management positions that were actually from outside of the area. But it became apparent that there was a role and there was a need for women to be involved at a sort of more integral level in what we did. And I suppose that first started with some of the recruitment of the field rangers. And I distinctly remember Bridget, who has worked with us for many years, turning up on the first day of her recruit selection wearing a little boob tube and a mini skirt and some ballet pumps. I don't think she really knew what she was in for, but she'd come for the opportunity and she'd come for the chance to be selected and just take part and have that opportunity, which is what it's all about. And she actually ended up graduating as top student. She slopped around in her ballet pumps for a few days, and then once she got her uniform on, she just flew. And and that was sort of one of those examples of how, that first woman was like, oh, this is what we're meant to be doing. Okay, right. So then we, and it's sort of snowballed since then. Any opportunity that we've been able to make available to women has been very important. And that's notwithstanding that, just because I'm a woman, I should get a job. It needs to be equitable opportunity and then based on merit as well. But that's also got to be based around the educational opportunities that women have and the social norms and biases that tend to keep women in these rural areas in childbearing and child caring positions within the homes and within households and villages. So there are the challenges in overcoming that, but if we can get the opportunities out there and continue the dialogues like Penny is taking forward, and having champions like Joyce, who's just forged ahead with her career, then we have the ambassadors out there to make it happen.
Absolutely. And, of course, this is just the approach that we should all be taking. This is more and more recognised, but I'm sure there are kind of specific tangible benefits and outcomes towards your broader goals that you've seen as a result of this kind of approach that you could share with us.
Yeah, it's also, I mean, we've got now, Joyce said there's 60% of females in the canine unit. I think broadly across Frankfurt Zoological Society in Zambia, we have nearly 35% representation of women across everything from mechanics to accountants to rangers and drivers and everything in between. And we've made a real effort to make sure that roles and jobs that women can do also beyond having children is really important. Being able to offer childcare and further support to make sure that their careers don't stall and stutter when they have children. So there's been those sorts of benefits of just having women on board and broadening the conversations, but there's also been some really interesting sort of intangible benefits that I don't think any of us really imagined or understood, and certainly never put into a log frame or a monetary evaluation table. And the one that really sticks out for me is around one of our microfinancing groups in the game management areas, where a group of largely women who are members of the microfinance group were approached by an investor who wanted to buy shares in the group, and quite a lot of shares. And the women had their meeting and made the decision that actually no, they didn't want this investor. and he could take his money elsewhere. And they smelt a rat, and they were quite right. It did turn out to be a scam. This person was going to invest and then take a loan and default on the loan. But what was the best part of that was that when the women, gave the feedback on that, it was not about the money, and it wasn't about smelling the rat and stinking out the scam. It was around the voice of saying no and having that opportunity to put their hand up and go no. And it was probably one of the first and only financially independent decisions those women have been able to make. And perhaps found strength in doing it together as a group through the microfinance group. But the knock-on effects of that have been sort of reverberated around my head for a long time, is that was never a tangible moment for us for gender equity or gender inclusion, but it certainly had an impact on me.
Yeah, exactly. You can't work on incredibly complex societal issues like this in a log frame approach. You're unraveling the snake, and who quite knows where it's going to go, the levels of complexity to this, but the incredible importance and power of making this change and enabling these conversations. So Claire, as you mentioned, you've been in the landscape for, gosh, 20 years now?
Close to 17, yeah.
17. How do you think that the challenges for conservation, and particularly women in conservation in Zambia, have changed over that time?
Well, Jo, you and I, like you said, you've been to North Luangwa. Was one of the first times we met was when you did that ecological monitoring for the rhino browse assessment. And way back then, we were two much younger girls running around the bush. And I think in some ways it's kind of the same but different. I'm no longer running around and chasing rhinos, but the challenges still remain. You still got to take that little extra step. You still, as a woman, you still have to push a little harder. You still have to have a little bit more of a thicker skin. You still have to be that little bit more tenacious or a little bit more resilient. It's just making any opportunity is basically, any missed opportunity turns into regret. So grabbing those opportunities and not regretting what happens, even if it doesn't turn out how you want. I think the challenges remain the same. I think there's still the prejudices out there. I think there's still some difficulties to overcome. One that quite recent, even in the position that I hold, as somebody who's sort of really grown and been a part of the head of this organization for so long, was told in a meeting by a male colleague that I was bossy and opinionated, to which my opinion on my response was, well, thank you, because I am the boss and I should have an opinion. And I'm not quite sure how he felt about that, but I felt quite empowered because but that wouldn't have been a conversation with a man in the room. And that's where I think you just have to, those conversations are so latent and they're so much part of what we accept, that every now and then maybe we just say, well, yeah, thanks, I am bossy and I should be. And so I think, as I said, same but different. We're still forging the same path, but maybe we're responding different. Maybe we're a little bit more savvy about it and a little bit more tenacious, if that's the right word.
Yeah, thank you, Claire. That's a great anecdote. I will remember that when I'm being bossy and opinionated. So maybe, this is a question that came in from lots and lots of people in the audience in advance. And maybe I'll just ask this as a final question to all of our panelists before we open up to your questions from the floor. And do please drop those into the YouTube chat. Hariasa Karikos from India Theophis Abraham from Namibia. Lots of people asked what advice our panelists would give to young women around the world who wanted to work in conservation. So I'll give you a second to think, and then Claire, maybe I'll pick on Claire. Claire, starting with you, your advice, please.
Yeah, I think if you can find a passion and you can find a purpose, and whether it's in conservation or to do with rhinos or ice cream, it doesn't matter. I think if you find a passion and a purpose and you have a belief in it, then you've got to back yourself. I'll use the word again, tenacious. I think, being that sort of not taking no for an answer, being that little bit thicker skinned might also help. But I think that at the end of the day, not taking no for an answer, I think Salome and Joanna and Joyce, and I know Penny too, and certainly myself, and probably you as well, Joe, we've all turned around at some point and somebody said no, and we've not taken that as, that's not the final answer. And we've pushed again, and look where we all are. So I think it's just find that passion, find that purpose, believe in yourself.
Lovely, brilliant. Thank you, Claire. Joyce, can I put you on the spot? What would you say to other women out there, young women wanting to work in conservation?
What I can advise those who wants to join and work in conservation is that your courage, your confidence, you should never lose it when you're on this journey. People will discourage you on your way. People will never encourage you. Some will encourage you, some will be discouraging you. A lot, believe me, there will be those who will be discouraging you. But believe in yourself, have that confidence. The support which you're getting from the few people who are supporting you, please make sure you use it, because it's a very good weapon for you to be in conservation. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce. Thank you for sharing your inspiration with us. Penny, your wise words.
Thank you, Joe. What I would just say to that young girl that wants to work in conservation is just follow your passion. There are so many opportunities in conservation. It's not just about the rhino or the elephants. You have the trees, the water, the people themselves. And it's really remarkable in just getting an understanding how all these things, how everybody coexists in the environments that they are living. So follow your passion, be determined. Like Claire said, don't take no for an answer. There's always somebody out there who's willing to listen and willing to give you a shot if you just give it your all. Thanks.
Brilliant. Thank you, Penny. So let's open up to questions from the floor. I have one here that was submitted by email from Carol Amos in the UK. Carol is really interested to know what roles are available for communities living in areas immediately adjacent to conservation projects, and in particular, what pathways are in place that create opportunities for women from these communities. Penny, I mean, I think we've touched on some of this evening, but maybe you could describe the roles and pathways for Carol.
Okay, thank you, Joe. So one thing that we as an organization are trying to do is to build capacities within our communities. So we have, for example, different positions within the organization, such as the community conservation educators. These are all employed from the communities. And what we're trying to do is not just to get these people and keep them sort of locked in the same position, but sort of drive the process for them to move up the ladder so that they are creating more opportunities, they're leaving that opportunity open for others within the community. It's still the same thing. It's not that we're getting, oh, that's a woman, let's get her. No, we're really looking into people who have the passion, are willing to learn, have the skill, want to grow, and just want to see a change within their own lives. So this is something that is in existence. Majority of the people that we have had in the past were people coming from outside the chiefdoms. You have our community conservation officers who are previously from outside the chiefdoms, but now we have people from within the chiefdoms who are working as community conservation officers. And you will find these are probably people that started off as community liaison assistants, but then they have been moved up and that space is open for someone else to come in, and that growth, that pathway is still going on and on. And there are other opportunities. That is just for the landscape integration unit, but there are other opportunities within the park. What we're looking into is in value addition with everything that we're doing. We have the vocational hubs, what we call the hubs. So this is where communities get vocational skills such as tailoring, for example, or mechanics. And then one exciting thing that happened early this year is one of the people who was trained, who was the only female who was trained in how to fix vehicles, was gotten, and she's now doing an internship in the park working on our vehicles. So it's all those opportunities, but then it's people that are within and want to do something different with their lives. Then we give them that opportunity, but they have to be willing to come and get engaged with us.
Thank you, Penny. And you touched on this a little bit. Carol's question went on to ask about career development, and Mina Malaya from Zambia asked our panelists how they feel about career progression opportunities for women in this field. I think Joyce, that has to be a question for you, given your skyrocketing progress so far.
How do we feel about our career progression? We feel good because it shows us to say what we are doing, we are just not behind. We are doing the same things which because we can see the promotion which we have in the unit. We have men in the unit who are working hard, maybe because we have ranking structure in our unit. So in our unit, we have under us up to maybe instructors, ranking structure system. So when you progress, maybe you are the handler, then we have certification each and every year. The person comes from America to come and certify us to be on that standard that you can be, when you are certified, you can go and work anywhere in the world. So that certificate, when it has been given to you, you are certified as a handler. That brings in a very good motivation for you because you are a woman. You feel good. Then sometimes women, they do progress better than men. Sometimes you find that you pass the test, which will be set for you. Then you find to say, you're on the same rank as a male. Then this male does not even pass the test which has been set for him. Maybe he needs to redo it. But for you, you just manage it at one time. Then that makes you to feel good. Because in the unit which you are working from, we are just not going to stay on the same ranking position. We need to keep on moving on. So for us, in progression, we feel good because we know to say, even one day I want to be instructor. One day I want to be someone who be reading, maybe the president of K9. So for woman, me, I feel good about this.
So yeah, that's fantastic to hear. Thank you, Joyce. Still opportunities for progress and development, and you're still inspired. I think we have time maybe for one more question. And there's an important one here from Ambrose Ogran in Uganda. Ambrose is asking how you ensure the safety of women in terms of sexual harassment in the field. Ambrose says they've had a few cases where women in uniform were sexually harassed in the field by men in uniform. Obviously this is concerning and totally unacceptable. Penny, I imagine this is the kind of thing that's embedded in addressing this is embedded in your approach.
Yes, that is. So in our approach to begin raising awareness, for example, around sexual harassment or sexual abuse, is something that we has been embedded in the refresher trainings with law enforcement. So this is now us deliberately speaking about these things. It's not always that someone will come out and say, oh, look, this happened to me, especially when you look at the law enforcement context where, for example, you have this junior officer who is being harassed by someone who's their senior. So they won't really come out and say, oh, this senior is doing this, because one, they fear they will be punished just by speaking out, or probably someone above that person is friends with the perpetrator and they will protect that person, and the one who ends up suffering is still the victim. So what we're trying to do is create these safe spaces within our female ranger teams, in them being able to speak out when something like that is happening. And then we recently finalized our grievance redress mechanism, where you have people reporting things anonymously without anyone reported where it came from. Even if it's not, for example, Joyce who wants to speak out and say, oh, this man did this, someone else who knows about it can easily come to us and say, oh, this happened, please can you investigate? There've been reports where, for example, one sector in charge was known to beat his wife, and the wife was so scared to come out and report that. And then it got so bad that the one time that he beat her, she had a miscarriage and went to the clinic. The clinic then told one of our staff and said, oh, she had a miscarriage because she was beaten. So we took it up and just said, oh, okay, this has to be addressed. And we took the right channel, reported the case, and we had the area warden, come in and investigate that process. So we're really trying to, in as much as we want to address these issues, we also want to ensure that our women, our officers are safe, such that even when they do open up themselves, or it's another person opening up, it doesn't come out as to who said what or when. So that is something that we're really working in. These things do happen more often than they are reported, and we would love it if our officers would come out and report them more often. So it's something that we're really discussing with them. If something happens, you don't even have to say, it happened to me. You can even say, oh, I know this happened in this unit, please can you look into it? You don't really have to tell us the specifics, but please let us know when it is happening so that we can address it. So that's, yeah, something that we're doing.
Yeah, wow. Thank you, Penny. That's very powerful. You know, it's all such important work, but it's so hugely complex and hugely sensitive. It's so critical that you're bringing such a professional and considered approach to the work, to the way that you're working there. It's as I keep saying, hugely innovative and hugely inspiring. I'm really sorry. I think we've already overrun. We're out of time for this evening. I know people are always interested to know more about how to get into conservation and work in conservation. We are planning to do, as I think many people will know, we have a specific internship process here at Save the Rhino, and we are planning to do another of these events before the end of the year, kind of talking specifically about that. So please watch out for that one. Our next event will be on the Thursday, the 19th of September, and we'll be sharing the latest news in rhino conservation for World Rhino Day. So please look out for that. And for now, thank you very much indeed for joining us. We're really proud to be able to support North Luangwa Conservation Programme, and you can help. One of the ways you can help us to continue to do so is by signing up for our great African Rhino Adventure, which is happening this summer. And if you follow the link in the chat, you'll be able to look more about that. Thanks again for joining us. Enjoy this lovely summer evening, and we hope to see you again soon.